Hey everyone, welcome back. In this video, we are going to check out the first game of the World Championship match 2024 between Gukesh Domaraju, the challenger, versus Ding Lijian, the World Championship title holder. So, all of you who don't know the overview of these players, Gukesh is kind of like I don't need to mention. I think he's the person who has won the candidates, who has performed phenomenally well in the Chess Olympiad 2024. Whereas Ding Lijian has been a bad tournament, like for the couple of months. I think like out of 28 classical games, he has not won any single classical games. The last classical game he won was in Vaikense in January 2024. So already the clear favorite player is Gukesh. So it's the first round. Gukesh is playing with white, Ding is playing with black. I don't want to waste any further time, so let's start. So Gukesh with the white pieces opens the game with 1 e4. Ding Lijian plays the move e6 in the first classical game, the French defend. So mostly the players are not really preparing against this French because like Ding Lijian has played this before in the past against Jan Nepomniachtchi, but in the first classical game, okay, it's kind of crazy. d4, d5, we have the French knight c3, knight to f6, d5, e5, knight to d7, and now we have f4. And now we have c5, and now we have knight c to e2 by Gukesh. The standard way to continue the possession is to play knight to f3, which many players does because like the main idea is to play knight c6, bishop e3, and now there are many variations you can take. You can play bishop e7, you can play a6, you can play queen b6, and there are many ways to continue the possession. But instead, Gukesh decided to play knight e2. Now kind of making Ding a bit uncomfortable. Ding spent around 3.5 minutes and played the move knight to c6, attacking the pawn on d4. And now we have c3. So the basic point of Ding is of Gukesh here is whenever the Ding captures, he wants to capture with the c pawn. And now, like after c3, Ding Lijian literally spent like half an hour, and he decided to play the move a5 after spending 30 minutes on his clock. After a5, the idea I think of Ding Lijian is to expand on the queen side. Like the usual way for example, if Ding Lijian would have continued with bishop e7, a standard way to play, like simple for following fundamentals of chess, deciding to do short castle in the future, knight f3 short castle, and I already feel after something like bishop e3, f6, g3, takes d takes e5. Like the problem of black in this position here is black's e6 pawn is extremely soft, and white can already easily target this pawn via bishop h3. A sample line could have been b5 expanding on the queen side, white goes h4, b4, bishop h3 attacking the pawn, black tries to move his knight, but now knight g5. Now double attack on the pawn, black is forced to capture the knight, and after h takes, you can already sense how black is extremely weak. For example, a sample line like knight takes d4, attacking the piece, attacking a piece, but after bishop g2, attacking the knight, black tries to defend the knight, but after queen goes into the game, queen h5. And now you don't believe it, but this position is already winning for white. So this is how I believe could have been very threatening, and definitely Gukesh has already prepared this because he has only spent 1 minute of his clock. So after c3, that's why we have a5 by Ding Lijian, knight to f3, a4 by Ding Lijian, and once again, Gukesh is simply developing his pieces. He's playing fast and aggressive. He has only spent 1 minute till now, whereas Ding Lijian has already spent more than half an hour of his clock. Bishop e3, and now Ding Lijian decided to finally play the move bishop e7. Okay, and now we have the move g4 by Gukesh. Once again, I don't know, like he said in the interview that in the conference that it was his preparation. Already the idea could be to expand on the king side. A normal way for white to continue the possession could have been to play knight g3, short castle, bishop e2, and simply developing the pieces. But just imagine if this g2 pawn would have been on g4, it would have been so much good for white. So I think that was Gukesh's plan. So that's why he first played the move g4. And now at the place of short castling, which already looks like a fine move, and it is actually a fine move, but in the practical point of view, man, Ding Lijian would be thinking that it is already part of his Gukesh prep, and he has already prepared this, so he can already get launched in a barricade of attacks like g5, stopping black f6 now, b5, h4, and the like engine says that it's fine for black, but personally speaking, practically speaking up, it's very hard when you are playing the first round of World Championship match and you are getting an attack like this. It's very hard to even decide. So that's why Ding Liren played a very interesting move, which is Queen f5. And this was the move which Gukesh in the commentary said that he was not like prepared for this move. Queen f5. And this is actually a very interesting move and a multi-purpose move. Now black can capture the pawn as the c pawn cannot recapture because the pawn is pinned. The idea could be to expand on the queen side like this, maybe a3 attacking the c3 pawn with the queen. And once again, the idea could be to play knight b6, bishop d7 and doing a long castle. Telling Gukesh that I'm not going to put my king on the king side, but I'm going to put my king on the queen side. And how are you going to respond to it? So that's why after queen f5, Gukesh now spent around 20 minutes of his clock and decided to play something like bishop g2. We have a3 by Ding Liren. I think he should have first played b5 a bit more, expanding on the queen side, keeping his options open of a3 or b4. But instead he played a3, which is still fine. But I think after b3 takes, what he has missed in this position was b4 by Gukesh, I believe. Because like thinking one of the moves like your opponent have just pushed the pawn to eb3. So finding b4 is a bit strange. Sometimes you somehow miss this move. So like queen goes back and now white decides to capture with the knight, because you cannot capture with the pawn because your b4 pawn would already be hanging. So Gukesh captured with the e knight and now knight to b6. So Ding Liren's idea is pretty simple. He wants to put the knight on c4. Short castle, knight c4, bishop f2. And now we have bishop d7 by Ding. So he's telling to his opponent, I can do castle any side I want, on the queen side, on the king side. Queen e2. And now Ding Liren quickly took on d4 with his knight. And now Gukesh decided to capture the knight back with his knight. A better move would have been to capture with the bishop, but practical, like your intuition screams to take with the knight, because knight deserves in the center, you are threatening f5. But the main problem of this move here is your c3 pawn is not protected. That was the whole point of playing the move bishop d4, and it was the best. It defends the c3 pawn, and your bishop is also kind of in the game. But here, like the move that annoys any player is bishop to b5, because now the bishop, like the knight moves and the queen and the rook gets attacked. But the main problem for black here is white can simply attack the black king, and you can't move the knight because the bishop would already be hanging. Like if knight d6, I can take, because I can't take the bishop because it's protected, but I can take the knight, and you are already losing the material, and it's already winning for white. And if you move the knight anywhere, you lose simply the bishop. So that's why it would have been the best. But knight d4, a very practical choice. But now we have knight to b2, solidifying his knight at a nice square. Queen e3, but because now the c3 pawn was under attack. Rook c8, double attacking the pawn. And now we have rook a to c1 by Gukesh, protecting the pawn. But this move allowed Ding Liren to get in with his queen via queen c4, also attacking the a2 pawn. That's why a much better move would have been rook f to c1, because now the a1 rook defends the a2 pawn, and now the f rook defends the c3 pawn. And this position is fine for white. But rook c1, queen c4, and now we have f5 by Gukesh. Gukesh is like, okay, it's time to go all in. I think maybe Gukesh would have missed this move. And now we have queen to d3 by Ding Liren. If Ding goes for queen a2, rook a1, queen goes back, rook a3. And this is already good for Gukesh, because like a3 move, a3 pawn was such a good pawn. But as black simply lost this pawn, now c3 pawn is also protected. This position is already better for white. So maybe this could have been a part of Gukesh's preparation. Like what he calculated, I think. So queen d3, and now we have queen e1. Obviously, you can't trade the queens in the position, because now this is weak, this is weak, this is weak. And like black can at least take the bishop, because the bishop on f2 extremely strong, and black should be fine. So that's why Gukesh trying to keep the queens on the board. And now bishop g5, a very strong move by Ding, putting the pieces at the best squares, attacking the rook. The rook went to c2, defending the pawn. And now we have rook c4 jumping in with the rook. And now we have h4, bishop f4, queen b1. Finally giving up the pawn. Why? Because already in this position, like it looks like the pawn is already defended. But believe me guys, a lot of attacks are coming up in the position. This pawn is weak, this pawn is weak. You have to give up something. So that's why queen b1 was played. Takes, and now Gukesh is officially a pawn down. Pawn takes, knight to e2, attacking the queen and the bishop. Queen captures the pawn on e5, takes, and what Ding said he missed in the he told in the commentary in the conference that he missed the move bishop c5, queen takes, and he thought queen h7 is already losing for him. Why? Because if he can't take the queen because it's already getting mate in 1. But luckily he saw the move queen d4 check, which saves the day for him and even win the game. Why? Because it's a check. If you take, now black can take because now there is no longer mate. If you try to move the king, black can easily trade off the queens, and this is already winning for black. So this tactic actually worked for him. So this was not really working up. So Gukesh decided to play queen c2, and now we have queen to c4. So queen c4 was actually the best move. If Ding Legion goes for something like queen g4, it's already a very bad move because it allows bishop c5. Black is still having the advantage, but bishop c5, the dark squares are extremely weak. Black king remains in the center, which could pose some problems in the future for the black king. But we have instead queen c4, just like black is 2 pawns up. Ding is saying, okay, let's trade off the queen. Gukesh is not having any other choice but to keep the queen on the board, so he played queen d2, short castle. Queen a2 is already bad move because bishop c5, queen gets in, and it's already losing for Ding. So just playing short castle, and now the king is finally safe. Bishop d4 was played, knight to d3, and now bishop is hanging up. So queen e3 defending the bishop. We have a rook trade, and now Ding move e5, which is a very strong move. Basically, like it looks like black's knight is hanging, and black can't move the knight because the queen is hanging. So e5. Because now what happens, if you try to take the knight, black can simply take this position, and this is already winning for black because black is 2 pawns up. So that's why in the game we had bishop into pawn, but now queen into g4, and this comes with a check. Bishop comes in between, bishop to f5. Finally Ding getting all his pieces into the game. Bishop drops back to g3, bishop to e4. Once again, you can't trade off the bishops because this should be already losing for white. So king goes to h2, h6 now, just making some squares for the king. Bishop h3, queen d1, bishop goes to d6, check, and Ding simply took the pawn on a2. And the possession is already finished for Gukesh because this pawn is already 2 steps away from being the queen. Check, and now we have the move king h8. In the conference, once again Ding said that he thought king h7 and queen d5 is coming up. It's a check you have to take, and this position is actually a draw because now white is having 2 pieces. But luckily he had the move king h8 in his bag, and after king h8, Gukesh decided to resign the game. And Ding Legion took the first game of the World Championship match. Because this is already lost possession, the king is extremely weak, queen g2 is coming up, and white is not really having any defense. This pawn is also getting queened up. The game is over for Gukesh. What a shocking result. Gukesh was the favorite. Ding Legion has not won a single classical game since his last 28 classical games he has been played, and Gukesh is in his prime. Literally, like on his current prime. And yeah, losing the first game with the white pieces in the World Championship match. It's a strong hit to Gukesh, and it's going to be interesting to see how Gukesh is going to recover from it. The tournament has just yet started. It's going to be very much fun and thrilling to watch, I can bet you guys. So yeah, if you loved the analysis and if you enjoyed the game, make sure to like the video, share this video with everyone, and make sure to subscribe to our channel if you are new to our channel. Make sure to click the notification bell so that you get updated whenever I post the analysis of next games coming up. So thank you for watching. I'm going to see you soon. So bye bye.